All right, thank you everyone for joining us today in this episode. I'd like to introduce to you a good friend, Dux Raymond Sy. He's the Chief Brand Officer at AvePoint. He's also a prolific speaker, podcaster, tech community influencer, and food connoisseur. You should definitely catch his videos that talk about tech and food. They're amazing. And not to be left out, he's a husband and father to 2 kids who he occasionally features in some of his crazy antics, and you can see them. So Dux, for those who don't know you, just explain to us, a little bit about your background, where you're from.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you, Jeremy, for this opportunity. And for friends watching, it's great to meet you. So again, my name is Dux Raymond Sy, and maybe I start with my name. Dux is my real name, and yes, I have my ducks in a row. It's a Latin origin of the word Duke. So some history around that name. So I'm originally from the Philippines, born and raised there. And my dad, at one point, my late father, he read a lot of Latin works, and he thought, wow, Dux is a great name because it means leader or somebody of nobility, right? And so he said, and when they had me, he gave me this name to be unique. Growing up, it was a tough name, as you may imagine. Kids can be mean. So growing up, I would go by my middle name, which is Raymond. Until late in high school, one of my buddies was like, it's a cool name. Nobody has that. Dux, right? 3 letters. So you should go with that. So then I kind of reclaimed my name. And since then, I go with Dux. But my middle name's Raymond. I'm born and raised in Manila, Philippines. And I moved to the United States in 1996, shortly after the Atlanta Olympics. And I remember that because I moved to Atlanta, Georgia to finish my studies. I have a degree in telecommunications engineering and a minor in math. So I came out of school as a techie, as a coder. My first real job was to be an assembler programmer for a small German company called Siemens. And as I was doing that, while I enjoyed coding, I enjoyed programming, it didn't take long. I realized, I actually would prefer being in front of people or talking to people. Nothing wrong with coding, but I just couldn't spend the rest of my days, the rest of my life doing that. So shortly after that, I teamed up one of my friends in Atlanta. We started a small business consulting company, and we focus on the Microsoft stack, where we pretty much help companies with software. We build custom software using Microsoft technologies. And one of the first things we did is we build custom intranets. And at that time, we were using ASP. Microsoft had technologies called Microsoft Site Server. I don't know if you all remember it. This was their first CMS. They had Microsoft CMS. And I distinctly recall I was on a project with a customer here in DC, a government customer, right around 2000. And this customer's like, hey, we work closely with Microsoft. They gave us this, some new project they called Tahoe. And this was the beginnings of SharePoint. So I got to see it. I got to play with it. I'm like, wow, this is cool. Because at that time, I was helping their PMO, their project management office, with not only this collaboration system so project managers can better collaborate, but I was also helping them with at that time, Project Central, which became Project Server and Project Online. So in addition to my tech background, as a result of my work, I also have background in project management. I'm a project management professional, and I help PMOs set up these project management systems. And when SharePoint came out, I'm like, this is perfect because these project management systems, while it's great, it's very complex. So I noticed a lot of project managers would often just use email and Excel. While they may have Primavera, Project Central, it's too cumbersome. Even Microsoft Project is too cumbersome for some people. But when SharePoint came out, I'm like, wow, this is perfect bridge between email and these complex project management systems. So when I got to play with, at that time, it's called Tahoe, and then Windows SharePoint Services, and then it's called SharePoint Portal Server, etc. I had the opportunity to work with O'Reilly Media, and I wrote one of the very first business-focused books around SharePoint. I wrote SharePoint for Project Management, which was targeted to project managers on how to take advantage of SharePoint for different phases in their project. So the book, while it's technical, it's written from a project management perspective. I had the opportunity to write two, I guess, two editions of it as the versions of SharePoint changed. And then, 7 years ago, I joined AvePoint as a CTO public sector and had the opportunity to help marketing at AvePoint. And a few months ago, I took on this new role as a chief brand officer. So kind of long-winded story, but it's just an amazing journey. I'm so grateful. And it's been 18, 19 years, and the industry is still very exciting.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can't believe you didn't mention front page. Front page had to be in there
Oh,
somewhere.
I don't use the F word anymore.
But I'm always glad to talk to somebody else who went the same route I did, ASP.NET through the whole
Yeah,
stack.
absolutely. I mean, look, I even started before ASP. I did Perl, I did CGI, right? And obviously front page. And at that time, being a developer, I can't tell people I use front page, right? I use Notepad, and I would hand code everything.
Front page was amazing for its time. People dug it out. I mean, you had Dreamweaver on the other side, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah, frankly, I prefer Dreamweaver because front page generated a lot of code and they stuck it in that magical VTI bin folder, right?
Yep, right. That's true.
And but boy, it's just amazing to see how the industry has evolved.
So you moved here in '96. What made you want to get into IT specifically versus something else?
Sure. I mean, as a kid growing up in Manila, I was drawn to technology at a young age, and I remember my dad. He, I think I was sixth grade. Somehow I convinced him to buy a personal computer, because we had it in school, and at that time it was very expensive. He saved up money, worked hard, and I come from a very big family. I'm second among 7 kids.
Wow.
So it wasn't just buying something. So he saved his money, and I convinced him to buy this 286. And I was just amazed on what you could do. And then I got this crazy idea, because I started seeing, I subscribed, or I go to our library because they have Popular Science magazine. And then suddenly they wrote this thing around scanners. I'm like, I should get a scanner. So my very first scanner was black and white. Again, hooked it up. And then I got into amateur radio. I don't know if you're familiar.
Mm-hmm.
So I got into amateur radio, UHF and VHF. I got a license for that. I hook up antennas at home. So I was always drawn to technology, but more specifically around creating something, software in this case, but being able to not only create it and use it, but also in some ways to use it to communicate and collaborate. I started hooking up my VHF radio to my computer and send signals. It's like crazy stuff. I would just follow instructions on Popular Science.
Right. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, I remember ham radios, right? Ham radios.
Ham radio, yeah. Yeah, Q codes and all the 10 codes, right?
That's amazing. So you've been in IT for a while, right? Mm-hmm. So and you've had some varying experiences in your own business and in AvePoint and just trying to drive forward some of the great technologies that are out there. When you look at IT as a landscape, what about IT would you change if somebody came upon you and said, Dux, you have the power today. Today's your day. You get to make the change. What would you change about the way we do IT? One
thing I would say is there's still a lot of work needed to democratize IT and make it much more inclusive. What's exciting in the past couple of years, especially because of the cloud, is the barrier to entry is much lower now, right? As I described earlier, when I was a kid, buying computers was so expensive. Not anybody and everybody can have an opportunity. If my late father didn't do that, I wouldn't be where I am today, because I wouldn't be as interested, or I may go into a different direction. So I think number one is there's still a lot more work that needs to be done in lowering the barrier to entry. Living here in North America, or maybe in some other developed countries, is we may not see that, but we're the minority. There's still a big part of the world that doesn't have access. And it's the basic stuff, right? Access to the internet. Like today, during COVID, even in North America, it's just heartbreaking to see where we have kids who would, because they can't go to school, they have to do online learning. in the morning, they would be dropped off in a parking lot at a Taco Bell to get Wi-Fi, right? Or you would see parents after work drive their kids into a local public library so they can have Wi-Fi access. To me, that's not acceptable, especially here, right? What about other countries? I know there are developing countries in Southeast Asia or Africa where, because there's no internet access, the school would literally print schoolwork and have parents pick it up, and then kids somehow would have to figure it out, or the parents would have to teach them, where the parents may not have that capability. So I think democratizing IT is one area that still needs to be improved upon. And second, related to that, right? We can always, put the burden on tech companies. Hey, tech companies should do more, government should do more. But I would say, and I would pose a challenge to people like you and me, there's so much we can do as technologists. We know the benefits because we're reaping the fruits of it. But I say we have this responsibility and accountability to do more beyond, writing a blog or beyond posting a video. We should help people, be it our local community, or if we can do it in a certain way, do trainings online, simple things, right? Like teachers today aren't equipped to do virtual learning. They're doing the best they can. Why don't we teach them? Why don't we mentor them? Or maybe, Boys and Girls Club is doing a lot of great work in providing support to a lot of underprivileged kids. And they keep asking for devices because they don't have enough. So, other families don't have the ways and means to purchase it. We can help, right? So I think we as technologists should step up and do more. And then the third thing in IT that can be done is just providing more equity and opportunity. While we're seeing a change, don't get me wrong, we're providing opportunities to different people coming from different backgrounds, be it race, gender, religion. I think one area of opportunity we can open up further is for people with differing abilities, right? People with neurodiversity. Oftentimes, society has stigma placed on people with different abilities, but boy, I tell you, the smartest people I've met recently are people with different abilities. So I think organizations should, provide more opportunities and have that type of equality to all kinds of people.
That's interesting. I like the third point you made there. When I worked at USDA many years ago, USDA has got a really nice thing called the Target Center that investigates and examines all the latest technology that help with accessibility for different, different people who have different ways of communicating or different ways of utilizing equipment, and they have it there for them to play with, see what's going to work for them, and then they'll order it, get it in so that they can be as productive as you and I in as many ways as possible. That's a very interesting point. And I also like, I think we've had some interaction on Twitter around that. How do we get involved and solve this crazy problem of students here in America not having access to internet or the devices even, right? Even if they have the internet, maybe they don't have the devices for the number of kids in the household. And you're right. Those are definitely challenges that we all need to step up and help with.
Because sometimes I feel like we overthink it. And I do believe people want to help, right? But oftentimes the mentality is like, well, I can't travel to the other part of the world, or it's too much, or it's too big. You'd be surprised on how much we can do just stepping outside the door, right? I was just speaking with somebody yesterday. I was sharing something that I saw in Texas. There's a school system. What they've done, because there's really no school, they've deployed, they partner with a local telco, and they put high-powered Wi-Fi hotspots on school bus, and they would just park it in areas where they know families may not have access to internet, right?
Wow.
That simple idea with this other person I was talking to, it's like, wow, that's a great idea. I know our local school superintendent. I'm going to tell him about it and see how we can help, right?
Yep.
And again, sure, companies and organizations need to help more, but we as individuals, we could do a lot. You would be surprised.
Yeah, if nothing else, generating the ideas and getting them to the right people, right? And then And then being willing to volunteer and help in any way
Yeah.
possible as they try to execute it.
I mean, another idea, especially for a lot of folks watching, if you're part of a user group, I came across this user group, I think in Europe somewhere. What they've done is they've adopted local nonprofits and helped them for their IT needs. Because as you know, nonprofits today are trying to survive. They don't have, as much donations. They don't have as much resources. So what this user group did, you know what? Outsource your IT needs to us, and we will commit at least in the next year to be your IT. So in this case, right, now the user group adopted an organization they can help, and obviously everybody took different responsibilities. At the very least, it's not too overwhelming for one person. So that's another thing we could do. We still have user groups, and I see a lot of user groups doing online learning or trainings, virtual meetups, which is great. But I challenge user groups: adopt a local nonprofit, adopt a local maybe school system where you can train teachers.
Wow, I'll take that as a challenge since I run a local user group.
Oh, so, there you go. I wasn't talking about you, but
yeah, I don't know that you even knew that. So yeah, but it's a good challenge because there's a lot of us. You're right. There's a lot of really smart people interacting in these user groups, and we are local, right? We're all local,
yes,
and so we can take action. It's a great idea. That'll definitely be a topic in our next.
There you go.
Meetup. So then. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of really great ideas. So where do you see either yourself or just our industry? Where do you see us heading? What's the future look like? Right, maybe 5-year horizon for yourself or for the things you're trying to get accomplished.
Yeah. So for me, right, I think the last 7-8 months has been an inflection point for a lot of us. While this whole pandemic situation, certainly it's not good. It has impacted and affected a lot of people and families in not so good ways. On the other side, it's really exciting to see how technology can be a great enabler, and technology can be a great solution in times like this, right? Imagine if technology did not exist. Like, how can we continue working? How can we continue schooling? How can we fulfill the needs of people, especially the elderly who can't go out? So with that being said, I'm very hopeful that technology can continue to help and make society a better place. And for me personally, I'm really thinking about, okay, other than my day job, other than the work that I do, outside of that, how can we or myself use this knowledge around technology or the possibilities of technology to contribute more to society, can help others more? And maybe not just the knowledge, right? The fact that we're interconnected in this ecosystem. How can I help connect those dots and say, this team from Microsoft that's doing this kind of work, and there's this organization that may have this need. Be more intentional in doing that. As an industry, again, there's a whole lot that we still have to do, but it's encouraging to see that as an industry, we're realizing technology at the end of the day is about people, right? And we're seeing now the intentional focus of, for example, the biggest value company in the world, Microsoft, is like, yeah, we make all this technology, but at the end of the day, it's about people. Take care of people. Make sure, we don't get overwhelmed. We don't get burnt out. We don't get stressed. Well, some people may think it's a marketing ploy. Work-life balance or, self-care. These are very important things. So that's the assuring part, that while technology is great, but these companies not forgetting and really focusing on the well-being of people, be it their employees or their community, etc.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, Dux, I want to thank you for spending time with me this afternoon and having this conversation. And your insights are always enlightening and challenging, right? In terms of just self-challenging things we should be doing more. So I just thank you for being willing to sit down for this interview today.
Of course. Thank you, Jeremy. Anytime. And again, feel free if y'all want to connect or have a chat, hit me up on LinkedIn or Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm all over.
All right. Thank you again.
Bye.